So let's sort of give people, let's give everybody a feel for what Pencil's experience has been all about. And I want to start with you two guys. Let's start on the end. And Jim, tell me why education, you know, macro is big to you, and why Pencil, and how it's rewarding.
Well, for me, my commitment to education really starts with, and it's not a surprise for many, with mom and dad. My father didn't graduate from college, but if anyone has ever had the friend in the neighborhood whose father had a thing to say about everything, my father had a thing to say about it. One of the things that he said was always, son, feed your mind. Two, what you get between your ears, no one can take away from you. And he would always say, be prepared. And this was he had chapters and books in which he would say these things. And then my mother was an example. With my father's support, she graduated from college 2 years before I graduated from high school. She got her master's 2 years before I finished law school. And at 70, she earned her PhD just after I was confirmed in just after I was confirmed for a Senate position in the Department of Treasury. So with those two examples, it was pretty clear to me, and you can imagine what it was like being in a house with them. Education was going to be important.
John, why Pencil?
Well, we just, you know, we see the need, you know, within J.P. Morgan Chase, we see the need for recruiting, you know, engineers are in demand. You know, we need more technical expertise. Although there's high unemployment, we're not filling the jobs with, you know, the U.S. domestic resources that we need. And Pencil was a great vehicle for us to start to influence that in a positive way. And I also think that they have a great organization, and I really like the way they've paired people up with principals and trying to find the right match. And you know, I'm fortunate that I work with a lot of terrific people who want to give back to the community, but in many cases, because of the demand of their job, have a difficult time doing that. So what I found with Pencil is it's a way for us to match up not only myself with the principal, but also match up, you know, some of the people I work with some of the faculty members, and to come up with some creative ideas on how to tap resources.
Claudy, what's it like having a relationship with private sector folks coming through your school? How has that enhanced the experience for you as a principal and for the students?
Well, truth be told, the partnership that I actually inherited my partnership. It was already present in the school when I took over. And like many new principals, I thought, this is just another project that I'm going to have to manage.
A burden?
Another burden.
A pain?
A pain.
A hassle?
A hassle. So...
That was your initial thought?
That was my initial thought.
Okay.
And I could remember circling the day that I was going to call Pencil to cancel the partnership.
And say, never mind.
Never mind, it's not working. And so, as days turned into weeks of my first year of principalship, I realized, wait a minute. I have mentors that are in the building before I am. I have children who are asking, can I call my mentor? I forgot to say something. I left, you know, I didn't email my paper like I said I would, so I really need to call my mentor. And I thought, wait a minute, there's something to this. And so the more involved I was with the children, and the more I was involved with the teachers, I realized, wow, this is a partnership that I must keep.
This ain't such a bad idea.
It's not such a bad thing. It is not another project to manage. It's self-sustaining.
People talk about the need for mentors, for people to get involved with our schools, and here they are, right?
Absolutely.
Private sector people.
Right, and why would I cancel that?
Ready, willing, and able.
Absolutely.
A lot of people wonder, how do you get started? I get to the school, there's a principal, we sit in a room, we look at each other. What do we do now? So Jim, take us through your first couple times. You have meetings with the principal. How are we going to work this out? You've also got help from Pencil. That's key. Absolutely. We should point that out. You've got a coordinator who comes in and makes this thing happen.
Well, I had probably about 4 first couple of times. I first became involved in pencil in 2001, and then I was just a principal for a day, and I was working with that school for one day. And then I moved on to another school, and I worked with them as principal for a day for a couple of days. And then later on in the process, about 4 or 5 years ago, I started working with one school on a regular basis. It dramatically enhanced the relationship. In fact, you and I taught one class there together, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And it dramatically enhanced the relationship and the nature of the experience. And by being in the classroom with the kids on multiple occasions, I started to, I came there, I've got a college degree, I've got all this sort of stuff going on, I'm going to teach the kids. And I started to learn a tremendous amount. One of the things we did in one classroom, we talked about, it was late in the year, and I was asked to give a graduation speech, and I said, well, I'm not going to give a graduation speech. You guys can just roll me out and then roll me back. I actually want to talk to the kids beforehand. And I asked, what are you going to do this summer? What are your plans? And one of the things the kids said, well, one said, I want to go to France. And other kids in the classroom laughed. Another person said, I want to go to Africa. And others, they were starting to crack themselves up. And so I asked them, well, what can you do in New York that will actually get you to Egypt, for instance? And that became the basis for a course that we've developed with Pencil for the High School for Language and Diplomacy. It's a course about essentially the diplomatic, and it's an experience-based course about the diplomatic process. So what's that course now look like? From the idea that was laughed at about going away for the summer, we've got a few components. We've worked with consulates for Germany, France, and Mexico, so that the kids that take this course, and there will be 19 of them, this is a pilot course, will actually go to the consulates. This month, they are slated to go to the United Nations. They actually may have gone already. And we have a handful of people who are deeply experienced in the national security area coming in to speak to kids at the school. One is the Suzanne Nossel, who's the executive director of Amnesty International. And the other is David Phillips, who is at Columbia's Institute for Human Rights.
So real results.
Real results,
real tangible,
real experience, and we actually have put together a Gotham passport program. So now the kids can go to Egypt by going to the Temple of Dendur at the Met, listening to the call to prayer at Park in 96 at the mosque there. We may get them to have Egyptian food in Astoria, Queens. But what we're doing essentially is saying New York is a gateway to the world, so that even without leaving Manhattan, even without leaving the 5 boroughs, you can actually experience the world right here.
So what's it like, just the reaction, to see the interaction, to see the growth, to see the light bulbs go off? What's that like for you?
The kids, it's part of why I do it.
But what's it like?
So the kids in the classroom, when A, you recognize that they have some good ideas, and B, you give them a chance to really explore those ideas, they just light up. And because they are younger and they are not stuck with they're not emotionally attached to any bureaucratic or other position, you hear different points of view, and sometimes you stop and say, well, why do I think that way? But it's fantastic in the classroom.
John, give me a description of your team and who you've got. It's not just you going in there by yourself. This is a collaboration, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, we're doing a number of things. We've got some of our, technology infrastructure team. We're doing some work with donating some laptops, but it's not so much just the laptops. We're doing sort of a day of service where we're sending into the school some of the administrators from our team to help them set up their computers and to basically enhance their technology.
Is it difficult to get people to go do this?
Not at all.
There's no resistance, like, what am I doing, why?
I think the hesitation, and I say this to everybody who's thinking about a partnership, who's not involved in a partnership, like, don't overcommit. You don't have to overcommit. It could be one day of service. It could lead to a dialogue that leads you into other services.
Start small.
So start small. Mm-hmm. And I'm very fortunate. Mary Teresa Nelson's the principal at PS 236.
And that's really her name.
And she is terrific. Yes, that is her name. and she's an angel.
Yes, clearly.
But you know, I'm very fortunate. We've got a great relationship, and we've taken a very, you know, a step at a time approach. And I've partnered a number of folks on my team with the different grade levels in her school. And they're doing all different things. I mean, we've got, you know, one of the folks who works with me is going to go in there and talk about the Electoral College, you know, to the class. We're going to host their staff development day here at JP Morgan Chase and bring in some other folks to help facilitate that discussion on leadership and innovation. And so I think it could take all different you know, directions, and it's also very refreshing for my team to do different things, to step out of what they do every day and actually go to the school, see the bright lights, as you say, going off in, you know, in the kids' heads, and the great engagement from the faculty, and really work with them on filling some of the demands that they may not be able to fill themselves.
Claudy, the way these two gentlemen describe it, it sounds like fun.
It is fun.
Yeah?
It is.
How
It is
so
fun.
for you and for the students?
Well, it's fun because I see great data coming out of it. And as a principal, data is important. So we have a lot of soft and hard data. My attendance has skyrocketed. Punctuality is no longer an issue. I can think of Jason, who at 7:15 is walking up the stairs with a coffee pot. And he was constantly late. He was constantly late. We'd knock on his door and wake him up. And now he's at school at 7:15.
What's he doing with a coffee pot?
Well, he understands that his mentor is in the business world. And in the business world, they drink coffee. So
He's making coffee.
he's gonna make coffee.
We all started out making coffee, by the way.
Yes.
Me too.
He's gonna make coffee, and he has to be there before his mentor.
Okay.
And so it was just amazing to see this young man who, as a staff, we couldn't reach him. We couldn't have him understand the importance of being on time. Yet this mentor came in, met with him a few times, counseled him a few times, and now he's there before school safety.
Impressive, right?
Impressive.
How many people are in the partnership at your school? How many mentors or people show up?
Well, right now.
And on what basis?
Yes.
How often?
So we have weekly, every Tuesday, from 7:45 to about 8:45. We have about 10 mentors that come in. And they meet with different children, different teachers. It's actually to the point where teachers are now battling each other because I don't have enough mentors for my children.
Wow.
And I want more.
How many did you say?
We have about 10.
Okay.
And so we have different programs around mentorship. So for the month of September, October, November, we may have 10, but December and January, we may only have 5.
Right.
So it's really depending on the project, how many people will come in the building.
And you just can't have enough, as it turns out.
Not enough.
Right? What about time commitment, you guys? Tell me the kind of time you personally put in and your teams put in, John.
I mean, I've probably been to the school, I'd say, a half a dozen times in the past year. And typically, lots of emails, you know, with the principal back and forth. It's varied from, you know, a 2-hour commitment one week to, you know, going to the school the next week for a half a day to, you know, an hour or two, you know, over the next week or two. So it's not a huge commitment, and I think we gate it based on the types of activities that we've got going on.
Right.
And we've been very careful, as we've gotten other people involved, not to overcommit them. I think we're very conscious of that, and we're very careful to manage that. But once they get involved, they sort of, you know, go off on their own to some extent, and it's amazing how much more and more committed they get.
Jim, you in there all the time?
No, I'm not.
Is it just you?
No, I have a team that works with me. We're a smaller team at JP Morgan Chase, but I have 3 associates that work with me, and then during the summer, we've had summer associates that participate as well. What we did this year, because there have been many other years in which the time commitment was very, very small, is since February, about once a month, we would come together as we developed this curriculum, and we would meet for about an hour The associates actually did research to help build out the course, and in connection with that effort, our coordinator was vital, because one of the things you need to do is translate the product of lawyers into something that students can actually use.
A lot of verbiage.
Sometimes clients need to translate things that lawyers produce into what students can actually use. But so it was helpful to make sure that we were communicating effectively with the school, that we were working effectively with the school administrators and with the teachers. And that meant that our time was very well spent, but it wasn't a tremendous burden.
It's not always rosy, and I just want to wrap this up here in just a couple seconds, but it's not always perfect, right? Any bumps along the road that you guys can describe? I know you started, Jim, before saying you went through a couple schools before you found the right one. I've kind of been down that road myself. There's not necessarily always a match. It's not always perfect. Any bumps in the road you want to let us know about?
Nothing nothing specific, other than I'd say, you know, again, being careful about overcommitting.
Right.
And being, I mean, we spent some time over the summer just kind of thinking about some of the things we wanted to do. And I think we just have been very careful about, you know, managing it one step at a time.
Manage expectations.
So the only other thing I would say, and this is more not from my own personal experience, but just from talking to some other folks in the room, the matchup of principal to corporate partner, I think if you don't get it right the first time, just raise your hand and work with the pencil partners, because I think everybody's well-intended. We just may not have the right matchup of the school, the principal, the corporate partner.
There are hundreds of schools out there.
And there's nothing wrong with just kind of saying, you know, maybe there's a different one I should go after, but don't be turned off by it. You know, just, you know, the next one may click even better.
It's like dating.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's not.
for some of us,
It
it's
is.
worked out better.
It
being in
is and it
pencil.
isn't. That's right. Sometimes
one-
marriages last forever, yeah.
Just one quick point, and less of a bump of a road, but something to be prepared for. The range of experience of the kids in this city it's huge. And in the same classroom that we sat down and talked about aspirations for the summer, whether or not to travel to France or to Egypt, we also talked about what many of the kids had to deal with outside of school in terms of friends that had been lost to violence. And so I would say, if you're going to join in, be actually open to stretching and learning the full range of the kids' experience and really engaging with them. It will make it more than likely much more impactful for you, and much more likely that you will be effective if you're teaching in the classroom, or you're a mentor, or if you're even trying to conceptualize a course. It will make you much more effective as a partner, a true partner with the education effort.
Claudy, any final thoughts here? We've got some folks undecideds, you know, hard enough to believe as that may be.
I'd say what I'd like you to take away is, if you are going to commit, truly commit. And when we talk about if there's any bumps, try again. If the partnership, if the relationship wasn't a great one or a good match, don't give up. There's so many schools out there, and there's so many principals and leaders who really need to bring the words off the page alive and fill in those gaps. And as business partners, you will fill in those gaps. So the biggest takeaway is, please commit. And even if it's one day a month, one day every 2 months, if you've committed, please be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Claudy.
Thank you.
John, James. Let's hear it for our panel, folks. Thank you all for your time, your commitment. We hope some of it rubs off on some of you undecideds out there. We hope you join us on this fantastic journey that is pencil. Thanks, everyone. I know you all have to go back to work, so do I. Hope you watch the news tonight and every night. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.